everybody, welcome to Two Comics. I'm Steve.
Mike.
And today we're doing an episode of Runs. And Mike was doing like I think he was bending water. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I was bending water, doing my Tai Chi.
Are you watching Avatar, The Last Airbender on Netflix? Or?
I've yet to watch an episode of Avatar.
It is trending #1 right now on Netflix right now. I think everybody watched season 5 of She-Ra. So now they're going, oh, yeah, remember Avatar? That's another series we can binge with the same type of animation.
Well, my wife has got me into Dragon Ball.
The first one?
Yeah, so what? She had VHS tapes at our parents' house when we brought that home because I still got my VHS played up. So we're watching the first series, Dragon Ball.
Oh, so good.
And she just ordered, I think, seasons 1 through 5. So we'll start with season 2 once this is over with. And it's not bad. I've always could care less about Dragon Ball. I tried to get into it in high school, and it was like the middle of like the fucking 700th episode or whatever season it was then. And I asked my friend because I got into it. I'm like 5 minutes into it. I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then my friend told me that it's like this is Dragon Ball Z, and you gotta go back and watch Dragon Ball. And then you gotta make sure you watch one because there's 2 different Dragon Balls. One where they changed the voice acting, and I'm like, I don't care.
Well, in the mangas anyway, it's all one series. It's all just Dragon Ball. There's no Dragon Ball Z. It's all just Dragon Ball. It's very entry level anime when it comes to if you want to get into anime. The ones you're watching now, the Dragon Ball is it's very edited. The mangas are very very perverted.
Goku's like a baby and not a baby. He's a kid in it, and he has a tail. I'm enjoying it, and I don't know if I can get into manga because I can't figure out how to read backwards.
Yeah.
I still I don't know if you mentioned it before. I saw that Ocarina of Time manga that's sitting on the shelf that I actually get my wife to read.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels.
Manga, but
there's a lot of parallels between Dragon Ball and Superman. Pretty much where he's like a dead, dying planet, and he has You'll notice a lot of Superman not allegories, like comparisons that if you continue watching.
I think the creators of Dragon Ball invented time travel and copied Sonic. They copied Sonic with the Chaos Emeralds. There, I said it.
I don't know if they copied. Since Dragon Ball came out in the 70s, I don't know if Sonic.
They had time travel. They did something. All right. I was funny because I always kind of brush it off. I'm like, nah, they didn't really do that. And when I was watching it, seven Dragon Balls, and then eventually 7 Chaos Emeralds. I'm like, yes, Sonic totally ripped them off. They turned Super Sonic and then Super Saiyan, but
they didn't even try the yellow hair and everything.
Yeah, you know what? Sonic's my favorite characters, so it doesn't affect me. So.
Well, if you continue watching it, my brother has literally every Dragon Ball. From Dragon Ball to GT to Super, all on DVD. So if you
regular Dragon Ball, they stop at season 5, I think.
They stop, and all of a sudden the Dragon Ball Z starts off and he's an adult.
At least in America, they did.
Yeah, there's a really hard to find manga where it actually has during his teenage years, it's hard to find. So
there's this fan manga out there on YouTube that my wife watches. So, I'm actually getting excited to actually get into it. I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm breaking out my VHS player. It's been collecting dust. I haven't really been able to use it down here. That's probably gaining my interest into wanting to watch it so I can get more VHS. But
I don't know if you'll get all the way through it. It's a lot of episodes, but
because we got the DVDs coming in soon, so we'll see how that goes with that. But hey, I'm interested.
But you know what? Speaking of going back and trying to get through another series, we're going to talk about a series that I know me and Mike are huge fans of. It came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. Spider-Girl.
Yes. I love this book. And I was one of those fans that was like, this cannot be canceled.
They tried to a couple of times.
A couple of times, and it got rebooted. Not rebooted, relaunched a few times. Interesting fact about Amazing Spider-Girl. Spider-Girl. It was the longest running female-led book. So shows how popular she was and how, you know, influential she was as a character. So, you know, she got Spider-Girl, and then that lasted about 100 issues, and then it went face cancellation. Got called Amazing Spider-Girl. That did like 30 issues, I want to say.
Yep.
And then that got canceled, and then it got brought back when they brought back Web of Spider-Man. It was kind of like a anthology book type book. I believe it came out once a month, but then there was like a backstory in the back of the book. And then we got Spectacular Spider-Girl.
I get the feeling those whole canceling reboot were just like things to drum up sales. Because Sada seemed to do that a lot. It's like when you have like a business, like, oh, going out of business, and then all of a sudden they're still open because they're trying to drum up business. Quesada did that for several. He did it for Spider-Girl. He did it for Captain Marvel. He did it for when Mark Waid and Mike Riengo were on Fantastic Four. I have a feeling that was kind of like a gimmick, kind of like, you know, like, oh, if you guys really like the series, make sure you support it.
Hey, it worked. I mean, it had almost the same creative team throughout the whole run, so.
Pretty much. I think it was like the same writer, and I think with artists, it was Pat Olive, and Ron Friends kind of back and forth a little bit, I think.
I'm glad you said it first, because usually I butcher the names on here.
Well, I never said Olive, so it looks like two F's. F. Short I, right?
Yeah.
But I think
and the great thing about Pat Olive drawing the book, it felt very classic Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Because he did Untold Tales of Spider-Man, which of Kurt Busiek, I did it. Which was, when that book was launched, it was basically a retelling of what Ben Reilly thought his life was as Peter Parker back then.
Which, yeah.
It came around at the same time as Spectacular, not Spectacular, Sensational, I believe.
Yeah, so for me, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then he brought back like the Scorcher back into Sensational. So it was just a lot. It was a lot. I felt that it was just Ben Reilly's memories. And the reason why I'm kind of bringing these two together is because Pat Olive, that was basically like a Ben Reilly, memory series. But then he comes back and draws Spider-Girl, Mayday Parker, in Ben Reilly's uniform. That's right, uniforms.
Well, I wasn't really sure when that title was coming out, Untold Tales of Spider-Man. I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was just kind of like to appease the people who were pissed off that Ben Reilly was Spider-Man. I didn't realize it was like, like a memory bank from.
I'm pretty sure it was, because I remember reading that somewhere in Wizard, or I remember reading somewhere online. It might have just been a fan theory.
Well, you're not the only person to tell me that. So
it could have been a dream too. I could have had a dream about it, but I remember. Yeah. I just remember it being. It was. This was what Ben Reilly's life remembers as Peter Parker. So that's why a lot of the stuff from that book was integrated into Sensational Spider-Man.
Well,
also,
it's canon, because that sounds good to me.
Yeah, and also they brought back Amazing Fantasy back then. It was I will say this: it was either when they brought back Amazing Fantasy or Untold Tales. Those were the ones, either or both, was Ben Reilly's memories as Peter Parker.
Well, why don't you set? You know what? I remember reading the series when it came out. I'm a little rusty. Why don't you set up the series for us right now? It starts off in a what if issue, actually, right?
So it starts off in a what if issue. I can't remember off the top of my head, 145 maybe or something, but it was just the what if. It was basically the future of the Clone Saga finale and post Clone Saga.
Before
the final chapter.
Yeah, before day, it was a little vague what happened to Peter Parker and Mary Jane's baby. A lot of people thought it was a stillborn, but it was really kind of alluded to that Norman Osborn had kidnapped the baby, and then Kane had at one point during the DeFalco's Amazing series had retrieved it from Morgan.
Yes, Morgan, not the Fray. Morgan, I forget her last name, but like basically this was DeFalco's. This is what I wanted my future to be of Spider-Man, and Falco got a lot of hate, as I recall. Not for this book, but just in general, I think, right?
No, well, I mean, obviously he didn't get that much hate because they made a whole ongoing series out of it. Yeah. I think it was pretty. There was a lot. I mean, a lot of people. See, the thing is with the Clone Saga, everybody makes it seem like, oh, it was just a horrible story that everybody hated. It actually was very high selling. The Clone Saga came It was huge sales boom in Spider-Man. A lot of people were interested in it. It just went on too long. And there were a lot of fans. So the only thing is Wizard hated it. So that's why, and Wizard, anything they said was stupid, they kind of took it as like, oh, that is like documented as historical fact. But it's not that case at all. There was a lot of stuff that Wizard, the Wizard liked was shit. They boomed a lot of stuff from like Rob Liefeld and Maximum Studios and all these crappy titles. But it wasn't the stuff that they remember when they were kids. Like they crapped on Superman, they crapped on like Spider-Man during the 90s because it wasn't how they remembered when they were kids.
And I feel like that's just the attitude of a lot of the older comic book writers. And like, so they get their way, especially back then. That's what they got as their superheroes. And like, well, for me, I felt that's the whole Brand New Day thing, is that it was a bunch of people who liked Peter Parker as the loser. I'm going to say loser, but
No, I know exactly. I mean, the whole Brand New Day was basically joking aside. It's like, I read Spider-Man comics in the 70s, so I want it to be how it was in the 70s. And that's all it was.
I mean, I don't know if I touched upon this last time when we do our JMS Spider-Man run. I absolutely almost hated the fact that as soon as Peter Parker woke up from the Brand New Day nonsense on his Aunt May's couch, I almost closed the book. I'm like, all right, I'm done. So
yeah, I a lot of emotions. Emotions really running high during that time of Spider-Man. I know what I mean. I stayed on board. I stayed on board with Spider-Man up until I think Volume 4, whatever. After Superior came out, I'm like, I've had it enough for a little while. I need a break from Spider-Man for a little while. But we're not talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about daughter.
But a lot of history in the making, so to speak, with Mayday Parker, that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, that this was the first single issue of What If that branched into a new series. I don't recall any other issues of What If doing that.
I think maybe they've taken aspects, but they haven't taken actual continuity from the storyline.
And then made that like I said before, one of the longest running female series Marvel's ever produced.
Now,
and that's testament to the character, how popular she was. It was almost kind of like reminiscence of Amazing Fantasy 15, where that book was going to be canceled. And I mean, it was canceled, but then from that book, we got Amazing Spider-Man, and the rest is history.
At that point in Marvel, a lot of the young, relatable teen characters have become adults and non-relatable anymore. So you had this character, Mayday Parker, who was a young, female teenager, relatable to like the young readers. This is before like the new Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel came out, that kind of thing. The books kind of step into What If were basically me and Mike. I mean, you can look back. We've done episodes of the Clone Saga and the post-Clone Saga, and DeFalco was one of those writers. Was a big contributor to the original Clone Saga, as well as a writer for the post-Clone Saga Spider-Man titles, doing amazing. Basically, what he does in this storyline, the What If, is take some of his plot threads from his amazing run post-Clone Saga, where Kane gets back the baby and brings it back to Peter and Mary Jane. And so basically, in this storyline, Peter has one last confrontation with Norman Osborn, which I believe Norman Osborn dies during this. But
he does, and in this process, so this is a variation of the final chapter storyline that ended the post-Clone Saga Spidey.
At that point, I didn't know yet.
Yeah, and so in the new MC2 universe, Norman Osborn dies, and Peter loses half his leg.
He loses half his leg, then he decides to hang up. I mean, obviously, he could have. I mean, I'm sure Reed Richards could have made him like a prosthetic leg or whatever. But he decides that you know what, this is enough. I have a family, and what really should have been the ending to the Clone Saga to begin with, where he has a child and accepts the responsibility of being a family man, a father, and a husband, and he decides to get a job with the crime lab in New York.
Yep. Well, Reed Richards did have a leg for him, a prosthetic leg, and made for him, because there were previous issues where Peter Parker was Spider-Man for a few issues here and there.
But not enough to
every time we saw Peter in action, it was such a great sight to see. Even though you just go back and read Amazing, it's something about seeing an older character that you loved go back and take on the mantle for a little bit, which was just,
Get back in the
Like,
saddle.
it was just so awesome to see, even though he was still Spider-Man and amazing. But and they didn't really do it that much. They still focused on, even though there was an issue where Venom took over Peter for an issue, and then there's one where when Kane comes back into the book, where Peter's like, I gotta take Kane down, all that stuff, and him and Dark Devil kind of team up to try and fight him. And then May says, I'm Spider-Girl now. I'm the one who wears the webs. So I thought that was a great issue too. And
I'm glad, because it would have been so easy to put Peter in there at the time. They didn't.
it was. So they did a great job of the times that Peter was in action, not to really take away from May, which they said they could have done that very easily.
Well, she was the star of the book, so it would have taken away from her character to kind of force Peter into that role more than they could have. They did, or you know what I mean.
And it dealt with that father-daughter relationship where he felt that she wasn't ready yet, and it was because he didn't want her to get hurt. And he also was like, well, I've been through this. I don't want you to go through all the horrors and stuff I had to go through while as Spider-Man. And that issue was kind of the passing of the mantle, so to speak. And
what if you mean?
No, that whole part where
the whole thing, yeah. And I mean, in the initial What If, Peter and Mary Jane are both very adamant about her not being Spider-Man. In that issue, she just turns 15, just like in the original Amazing Fantasy. Peter Parker's 15 years old. Normie Osborn is, he's also a teenager, and he's all tatted up like, his Sons of Anarchy. He decides he's going to take his revenge on Peter Parker for killing his grandfather. He tries to force Peter into a confrontation. At this point, no one knew that Mayday had I think she just started manifesting her powers, and she decided to confront Normie Osborn. And Peter's like, no. This you're not gonna live the same life that I lived. I have plenty of regrets. Yada yada yada. She ends up going into the attic, finding her Uncle Ben's Ben Reilly's old costume, puts it on, and she confronts Normie Osborn, and the hijinks ensue.
And then they committed the biggest crime of all. They burnt Ben Reilly's costume.
Not for long.
Nope, he makes a new one.
So, Mike, you got more notes, and you probably you're probably more familiar with this than I am. What happens next as far as the ongoing series go?
It branches out. It kind of like just takes place. I mean, issue 1 was kind of just a repeat with some stuff added in from the What If story. So it then takes off like almost very similar to Amazing Spider-Man at the Amazing Fantasy 15. It kind of just takes place after the events of the What If, or Spider-Girl #1. And it's just her, like, Peter slowly accepting the fact that her daughter is going to be Spider-Girl. She's kind of like sneaking out and doing it. Yeah. And Phil York, is also help training her.
The Green Goblin in the Clone Saga, the good Green Goblin. A lot of aspects from the Clone Saga.
And that's what was so great about it. Like, there's just he put his blood for it into this book. It was also the first, like, I want to say 12 issues, so to speak, was the passing of the torch to May. What I talked about earlier, where they kind of started with when she took down Kane. After Kane always gave Peter trouble. Kane beat the crap out of May. I don't want to hurt you, May, but if you get in my way, I'll stop you. So, and then it branched out to I keep saying it branched out, but it kind of like I said, it was the passing of the torch, and it wasn't until, I love these because what they did was in each MC2 book, I think the J2 or the Avengers Next and all them, the Fantastic Five book, they all kind of did their Back to the Future issue where they went back to the past or back to an alternate reality. And I always called I think it was issue 11 and 12, where it was basically, this is the same plot from Back to the Future, which I didn't care because it was a great story, where May goes back to when Peter was in high school.
Yeah, I do remember this story. Yeah.
And it was right around the time where we find where Alice Smythe first brings the first Spider Slayer in.
And James' face on it and stuff.
Yep. I thought that was great, where she kind of replaced Peter in some of those roles, where It was that issue of Amazing where it's Peter's like running. May is running away. She meets Aunt May for the first time, who she's either named of. She meets Mary Jane too, her mother. So, and it was also Peter Parker was also hitting on her as well. Thinking it was just some, So it really. I read that this is the plot for the Back to the Future, and I don't even care how great it is. So.
They actually not that storyline, the whole thing where they put May in some of the Peter situations. They actually did that in a Deadpool issue one time too, where Deadpool goes back in time to that fight where Flash Thompson has his Spider-Man fan club, and Craven shows up, and then but it's actually everybody remembered it wrong. It was actually Deadpool who was there, and it's pretty funny. Like some of the story where he just makes fun of like Norman Osborn's hair. And like hits on and like he catches Aunt May like in bed like with like Uncle Ben, like not Uncle Ben, somebody forget, but it's pretty funny. Yeah. The whole,
and also I liked how they gave May her own supervillains.
Yeah,
I think another reason why this book also came out around the same time as Batman Beyond as well. Yeah, where they kind of Batman had his own villain, Batman Beyond had his own villains, and she had her own Sinister Six as well that she fought.
DC's kind of good.
Yeah, so it's like instead of when she fought her first Sinister Six, she had her powers. Yeah. Where at the end of it, she gets zapped by one of the I forget who some type of character who has electrical powers. That caused her to lose her powers.
Well, it was like the daughter of Electro or something like that, wasn't it? Or...
It might have been something like that too. Yeah. It's just I loved this book. It was always one of my favorite books back in the day, and they did their best to like have Spider-Man lore into it without giving all of her Spider-Man's villains to her.
Yeah,
I really think the only real Spider-Man villain that was really pain, not really a big pain, was Kane, and that was only for a few issues. Venom,
he was in the main
a little bit as well, but. They did. It was just they made this book hers without really being at Peter at the same time. It was Peter was in it, but May was a star, and they did a really great job doing that. I think.
I was okay with like Kane and like being in it and stuff because he was at that time Marvel was kind of staying as far away from any aspects of the Clone Saga as they could. Yeah. So it was kind of like they weren't. It's not like they were going to use them in the regular titles anyway at the time. I remember DC at the same time was pushing their Cassandra Cain Batgirl series at the same time. They were kind of doing the same thing over there. I remember that cool Wizard cover where J. Scott Campbell did Batgirl and Spider-Girl. And yeah, I mean, the book was really great. I mean, DeFalco, obviously, he had a run with Ron Friends on Amazing Spider-Man after Roger Stern. So it read very much like classic Spider-Man. I mean, like, if you look at somebody who read a classic Spider-Man, DeFalco was the guy to go to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really good. I remember there was that issue where she had a clone. There was like
had her own clone saga. I don't remember if it was in the original Spider-Girl series or was in Amazing or Spectacular. I know she was definitely in Spectacular, and we were explaining it earlier before we started recording. Spider-Girl was so popular that she was also in the Earth X universe, as well as during Universe Paradise X. They had this book called Heralds, which was Days of Future Past, Logan, I believe Bloodstorm, and Mayday Parker from another universe. And in that universe, the Heralds Mayday Parker, Ben Reilly was her father. Because she's like, oh, it's great that you were. So I don't remember the exact line, but it was like, oh, I wear my father's spider costume, and it was Ben Reilly. So
it was good. Her name was April, like May and April.
Yeah. Spider-Girl kind of played a somewhat big role in the Spider-Verse that came out.
That was just another that whole book was a lot of murder porn, and it didn't. Yeah. If I remember correctly, this is around the time I started to check out on Spider-Man. Didn't he murder Peter and Mary Jane in that? Or?
He didn't murder Mary Jane. We thought we did. So Mary Jane has another baby in that it's called Benjamin, and there was the Benji who Mulan wanted to kill, Kane was the other at the time.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, Peter, her father, is still alive. He's the other now.
Yeah.
So setting up for another Spider-Verse thing. The Spider-Verse is never going away. Marvel loves that.
It makes money.
Yeah, it makes money. We're going to get the movie was probably one of the best Spider-Man movies that I've ever seen.
When I first heard it was called Spider-Verse, I'm like, come on. You know what? They did all right.
And it was definitely the best Miles Morales that we're ever going to get, aside from the Spider-Man 4 one. Spider-Man PS4, I'm sorry. But I'm in a brain freeze all of a sudden. But yeah, this Spider-Girl is such a great book. I can't praise it enough. It's something that I try and read every once in a while, kind of just to reread it because I can't tell you how much I loved it.
If you were interested in a good classic Spider-Man, without reading the actual classic Spider-Man like that, at a time where there wasn't a lot of like just solid storytelling going on, there's a lot of gimmick-driven Spider-Man. This is definitely a good book. It's definitely, for me, if I'm being completely honest, 100% honest, it's a very okay book. Very,
yeah.
It's not like it's not Ultimate Spider-Man. But I think
this was Marvel's first attempt at rebooting their universe. Well, I wouldn't say that first because the Spider-Man, the 2099 line was kind of their first one. But
yeah,
this was such a great book series universe for legacy characters.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great. I think it's definitely a book that should be revisited.
Yeah.
Definitely should be revisited, both in comics and in TV and movies too. Like we said before, it seems to be such headaches with Sony and Marvel, this whole Spider-Man deal. If Marvel's gonna, Disney and Marvel's gonna insist on wanting Tom Holland as Spider-Man, just give Marvel Tom Holland and concentrate on other aspects of Spider-Man, like they've kind of been doing with Venom and Morbius, I guess, and now it looks like Jackpot.
Yeah, listen, Sony, if you're listening to us, who cares about Jackpot? Do Spider-Girl. That's your female or hell, even Spider-Gwen. I have nothing against Spider-Gwen. I am more partial to wanting to have Mayday Parker with the web first.
Much more want Mayday Parker, but I think right now, because of the Spider-Verse movie, I think they'd be more attuned to doing a Spider-Gwen. But God damn it, I love a Spider-Girl movie or a show. You can do a show on Spider-Girl, I think.
Yeah.
Look at a show like The Boys or like any other big budget show. You can do a Spider-Girl show, I think.
Yeah. There's so much potential from the Spider-Man universe without having Spider-Man in it. I think they own the rights to Spider-Woman too. I think all the rights to each variation of it. I think
anything Spider-Man. I guess anything with a spider in it. I guess they own.
I don't think they can use Jessica Drew.
Oh no, they can.
Well, they can, but she just can't have spider powers or some shit like that.
She doesn't have spider powers anyway, so I don't know why. Like that doesn't even. It's just the name. You know what I mean?
But
they can use Julie Carpenter.
Yeah, I don't want to see a Madam Web. I don't, unless Madam Web's like having all the, Spider Women take, but I don't want to.
I would be totally down for a Madam Web origin movie. I would like, because they're really explaining in the comics how she got her powers. Really, just like she's a psychic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind.
90s cartoon, she was kind of on the same universe as the Beyond or whatever the hell he was from.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm always down for something new and interesting. I don't know if it'd be any good or not, but something. I don't know.
And I feel it might have been a mistake for Marvel to have Spider-Gwen be digital only.
Yeah.
A bunch of the Spider-Man books are digital only now, like on my back wall over there, the Gamerverse, which I had the first few issues, so I wouldn't mind that being finished out as print, just so I can add it to my wall. But yeah, so I think if we get any other Spider books, like a Spider-Girl book or The Amazing Spider-Girl, because I think she's called Spider-Woman now in her universe, it'd probably be digital.
Would you like to see a new Spider-Girl series, or like reboot, or just continuation?
I would rather see a continuation. I don't want to see a rebooted Mayday Parker.
Samesies.
Yeah, and it'll be different and it won't be to our liking,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
because they tried doing that with when one of Dan Slott's best stories was that Spider-Man miniseries during not Final Crisis.
Renew Your Vows.
Um, and then they continued that series on with I think it was Roger Stern, was it? He did the series.
No,
No, Jerry Conway, yeah. And it was just basically a Spider Girl ripoff, not ripoff, but clone, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I would like to see. I mean, keep Dan Slott away from anything Spider-Man for a while. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe like if you get a new, like Kelly Thompson who writes Deadpool, she'd be kind of a something maybe. But you need somebody who's going to commit to a world building for like a couple of years in that book. I would suggest maybe Brian Bendis because he did a great job in Ultimate Spider-Man, and he does write teenage girls pretty good. But the thing is with Bendis, you never know what kind of Bendis you're going to get.
It's weird. He can his best books are his teenager books.
Yeah.
I remember I can't remember since this whole pandemic was going on the last time I read Young Justice, but that book was doing pretty well for a while.
If the art wasn't good in that book, I would hate that book because it's so I don't really the art's great in it and it has a lot of like characters that I like from from back in the day. And some new characters. I like Teen Lantern and Jenny Hex, but I mean,
I'm glad that he did Superboy and Tim Drake justice because I thought he was going to ignore what DC was doing by bringing back Tim Drake to who he was, how he couldn't remember who he was in Detective Comics. And I thought Bendis was just going to Bendis isn't really great with continuity, even with his own book. So I'm like, he's just going to draw Tim Drake his way or write Tim Drake his way, and he actually did a really good job with Tim Drake and.
I actually I watched an interview with Bendis not that long ago, and I was kind of like, I think I'm gonna give Bendis a second chance because I love Batman Universe. Batman Universe is probably my favorite Batman iteration of Batman since Frank Miller. I love that book so much; it's so good. And Nick Darrington on the art is great. I thought I'd give it a second chance. I tried reading Legion of Superheroes. I got into 2 issues, and I'm like, nope, I don't want anything to do with this. I tried rereading Young Justice, and the same thing. Like the art's good, and then as soon as the guest artist, no, Superman sucks. And pretty much the only thing Letheon is I can't. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I honestly, I'm just gonna read Young Justice online. That's it. I'm not gonna buy it anymore because.
But if you told Bendis to go on, you say, hey, if he ever came back to Marvel. Which it will happen inevitably, eventually, one day. Say, hey, you want to do Spider-Girl? Just do exactly what you did in Ultimate Spider-Man. I'd be down with that. As long as you get a good artist, too. I mean, you get a good artist who draws good female characters. Nothing cheesecake like J. Scott Campbell or Frank Cho or who draws good teenage characters, you know what I mean?
I just feel like this would be the best universe also for Miles Morales to be in as a legacy character.
Oh, yeah. I think, speaking of Sarah Pichelli would be a good choice for an artist on Spider-Girl. Yeah.
It just proves like Miles Morales would be great either in the Ultimate Universe or the MC2 where he's not in Peter Parker's shadow.
It'd be cool too seeing him as an adult and it'd be kind of
cool. I would love to see forget Miles Morales in the MC 616 universe. I want to see the Miles Morales of the Spider-Man of the life story, Miles Morales.
He does not work in the same time as Peter Parker. It does not work. I mean, we can go off on a tangent about that. But
I'd be okay if he became the new Scarlet Spider, but Ben Reilly and Kane are still around. So, but
I mean, Miles Morales as a police captain in Spider-Girl series because was his father a police captain too, or was he just a regular cop?
Yeah, he was just. I don't think he was a cat. He was a regular police officer. I think.
I mean.
No, wait. He was. No, I don't think he's a police captain in the Ultimate book or the 616 book. I think that was in the Spider-Verse movie.
In the movie, yeah, he was. I think he's a cop in the game too. Isn't he? The PS4 game.
Yeah, in the game he is too. Yeah. Which
in the Ultimate Universe, I think he's like a SHIELD agent or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Even in the Spider-Man 4 game, Miles Morales is going to be an awesome character, I think. I don't know. Again, we can get into that for another episode.
Spider-Girl, time to bring it back, Marvel. You know? I mean, honestly, I think now's the time to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
we all had fun with Spider-Gwen.
I mean, Marvel and DC are gonna be cutting back on their print stuff. I think a lot of their second tier books are gonna be all digital. I think most of their miniseries are gonna be digital only. I still think Spider-Gwen was a mistake, but at the same time, no. I think a lot of people who read Spider-Gwen kind of would rather have digital. The clientele that read that probably like digital before digital.
Spider-Gwen was fun for a while. You know, good, cool concept, cool costume, but that time has passed now.
Yeah. Let Mayday Parker reclaim those webs for
that was the real deal.
strong female independent characters.
Like I've always said, the best thing Gwen Stacy ever did was die. You know.
And they brought it back as a clone many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my final verdict for Spider-Girl is that it was one of my favorite books of that era. Still one of my favorite female characters. I know she had, Mike, it's a Spider-Man character or a Spider-Man. Well, I mean, yeah, but it was still one of my favorite female characters. She was strong, independent. She earned the webs from Peter. She finally, got his blessing, so to speak, and she was the Spider-Girl. She earned it. And as a female character, to be Marvel's longest running female lead character, that says a lot. So
great comfort food as a Spider-Man fan. That book was. It was like something old and something new, and just like just a perfect storm of a Spider-Man goodness, as far as I'm concerned. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
They could have been Marvel's Wonder Woman, as in terms of popular. Maybe not the height of Wonder Woman's popular, but Marvel doesn't really have a Wonder Woman popularity character, and
they're trying to with Captain Marvel, but I don't know.
And they didn't try with Spider-Girl, and she became the character. So I mean, that says a lot for the testament of the character. And Mayday Parker story is not over with. Whether she's going to be in the new Spider-Verse movie.
Yep. It'd be awesome.
Other than the not so much Mayday Parker, but Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl was in the Ultimate cartoon. Another variation of her.
Oh yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
It was basically just Peter Parker as a woman, basically.
They didn't do that costume. They didn't do the Ben Reilly costume, but
yeah, which they should have.
Yeah, baby stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll get in there. I think Ben Reilly's going to be in the Spider-Verse movie.
We'll see.
It may or may not be my favorite Spider-Man movie unless they kill him off, and then he won't be my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Miller and Lord, I trust those guys. I mean, they haven't done me wrong yet. I love the Spider-Verse. I love the 21 Jump Street movies. I love the Lego movie. Yeah. I mean, I love it. Since we have the Snyder cut, I'd like to see the Lord and Miller cut of Solo. From what I understand, that movie was basically done before Ron Howard came on board. So, I mean, we'll see.
I would not care if we got a sequel to Solo. It was light years better than Last Jedi. But that again, that's another episode we can get into one day in the future.
I will say, without getting into another episode, I will say one thing. Rise of Skywalker is on Disney Plus now, and I think I appreciate it a little bit more now than I did when it first came out. I had a white rage boner for Star Wars, and now I watch it now. I'm like, this is a decent Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
not bad.
I even had an idea we can do sometime too, where we can. How would we? I think we might have done it, but I've had all ideas. Well, how would we cast? How would we make the new Star Wars movies?
Cast. Put in that because I have a perfect pitch. Well, not perfect, but I have a pitch for how I would do a new Star Wars trilogy, and that's definitely. I would love to make an episode about that.
And I would have. You can have the same cast that we had, but it would have been. Yeah, we'll put a pin on that because that's the whole thing that I got to write down. And
but I think it's going to wrap it up this episode. I think, though.
Yeah, I mean, Good news, guys, for all you guys following us. We appreciate you guys following us. This will possibly be issue 99, episode 99. Yeah, we're almost to 100 episodes, and we can't thank you guys enough for being there for us, being with us all the way from the beginning. So, got a big episode coming up soon.
I think it's time the crisis. It's time the crisis cake burger.
Yeah.
New 52.
Different variations of ourselves and whatnot, and
we either do a John Byrne Man of Steel or maybe 0 Hour. 0 Hour. Yeah. Anything we can do, Secret Wars.
Different stuff us together. Something like that.
But
we don't have the technical for that.
Like we said, I think it's going to do it for this episode on Spider-Girl. And like I said, go check it out. It's available in many forms. It's available in trade paperbacks. Has those little small paperbacks you can find. They're almost like they put a lot of mangas in. Of course, available in the original digital copy, original copies and digital copies. Marvel Unlimited. Go check it out, guys. I wouldn't steer you wrong, and this is a good title. I would definitely go check it out. I know.
And if for two Spider guys like us, if we're giving the okay for something, then go read it.
Exactly.
We wouldn't see wrong with Spider-Man or anything Spider-Man related.
There's a lot of bad Spider-Man stories out there. This is not one of them.
And we've been brutally honest with our opinions on our favorite character. So yeah, check it out. It's something that you'll really enjoy. If you like classic Spider-Man, then this is right up your alley. If you like Untold Tales of Spider-Man, then you'll like this. If you like the Clone Saga and post-Clone Saga, you'll like this.
If you know us, if you like us, you'll like this.
Yeah.
All right, guys, gonna do it now. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you guys next time.
Didn't like that bell.